So the Rockets have the number 3 pick in the NBA draft. They moved from 9 to 3 as the lottery took place. And yesterday we started to build out a wish list, a power ranking of what we would like to see the Rockets do this offseason. We got like 10 players on here. We're going to include keeping the number 3 pick. Our general rule of thumb here, Paul, was that you're trading Jalen Green or Alperen Şengün, the number 3 pick, and at least one of Brooklyn picks for all these players. So that's kind of like the rule of thumb.
Yeah,
so depending on who you're trading for, position matters.
Yeah, some of it will depend on because we have only one big guy on here. So for that one, it doesn't really make sense to have both Şengün and him. So there's a little bit of leeway, but in general, we're trying to say for a pretty comparable package.
And we're assuming all these people want to come to Houston.
Okay.
So the number 1 option on our list, we have declared ourselves as Team Donovan Mitchell. You and I discussed this a couple weeks ago, kind of as the rumor started to float around. And at the time, I was a little more wishy-washy on it, where I was like, yeah, good player, not a great player. And maybe it's playoff bias for sure. But what I've seen in the playoffs from Donovan Mitchell, I go, that's everything I want out of Jalen Green. So I'm going to take away the hope of Jalen Green and just take the player I want and hope that Donovan Mitchell and Şengün can win a championship together.
So you're not giving up Şengün also?
No,
it's one of those two.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
And then draft picks.
So this is Jalen Green.
The assumption that we're
this is Jalen Green, the number 3 pick, and a Brooklyn pick in the future for Donovan Mitchell. So.
Yeah, if that's all it is, I'm doing that in the heartbeat. Yeah,
so
if Şengün was involved, I wouldn't. But if it's this, then yeah, I'll do that.
So Mitchell was number 1 on our list. So we'll start here. Jaylen Brown. The rumors were out there last year. Now he signed a big contract, but like Boston's weird. That whole situation with Jaylen Brown seems a little off. Where it was so hell bent on like everyone's like, hey, he's gonna get moved. He's gonna get moved.
I think it's over now.
You think it's over?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they basically had to lose the Cavs series,
which they're not going to. Unless LeBron suits up for the Cavs. So, but in this hypothetical world,
he did all this complaining about Boston, and it seems like everything has now all gone by the wayside now that he's been paid and he got his All-NBA. Brown would be at the top of my list over Donovan Mitchell, but I would in a heartbeat.
The difference for us, where we landed on with Mitchell versus Brown, is that what Mitchell is doing right now, he's proving it as the number 1 guy, where Brown just hasn't done that, and so it's more of just a resume-based thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the next one on our list, the next 2 on our list. Let's go here. We have Paul George, who is available via sign and trade. It seems like and Kevin Durant.
3 years ago, yes. Now, no.
Really? So you'd be a no on both of them?
I just think with the Paul George and the Kevin Durant, I look at 2 guys that are clearly going down, and I don't feel like I don't think that you are getting these guys for 2, 3, 4 years and building something with them. Mm-hmm. I think you're bringing them in, and you're bringing in veteran habits. And I don't know that they're necessarily going to mesh with a guy who seems to be perfect for younger players in Ime Udoka, but maybe not so much for established veterans.
Okay, interesting.
Obviously, we don't really have much to go off on that front, but I would think if I'm an older player, this is not the kind of place that I would probably love, because not only am I going to be coached as hard as the young players, but there's a lot of things that I'm better than the young players at. Do I need to be a part of that too?
So I was proponent of the Paul George because I go back to when Jalen was on his podcast last year, and there was these James Harden rumors circulating about him coming back to the Rockets during free agency, and Paul George was the one telling Jalen Green, hey, like, you don't want James Harden. This is your team. It's your ball. You're the leader of this team. So I kind of maybe overlooked that clip and said, hey, you know what? That means to me that if Paul George came here and Jalen was still part of this team, that he would kind of fall in line. That he has respect for Jalen Green's game as a basketball player, and he'd be willing to work more with Jalen Green. Whereas, like, where I agree with Paul George, Harden would be working in opposition of Jalen Green if they were teammates. So that's why I'm a little more Paul George than you are.
I don't know that he would do that. I think he says all those things.
It is a big assumption.
He's playing with 4 good players right now, and they're not winning.
I'm also here for a good time, not a long time. This is the here for a good time, not a long time tier where these guys will obviously make the 2024 and 2025 or 2025 and 2026 Rockets way better than whoever they draft. And this is where we have to be clear. The number 3 pick in this draft, or the number 1 pick in this draft, there are people that are around the league that are like, this is like if the draft started at number 10 most years.
Yeah.
That's where I'm
Not
like,
great.
I'm like, listen, this guy that the Rockets or anybody drafts at number 3, it is not only is it a complete dart throw, but it's like taking 5 steps back from the dartboard and then still having a dart throw where if you're just turning Jalen Green and 2 or 3 picks into Kevin Durant and plopping them on this team is going to make the playoffs at the very least. And Durant's someone who tried to get Ime Udoka hired when he was running the Brooklyn Nets after they fired Steve Nash, and Ime Udoka got relieved of his duties in Boston. So there's that weird report where it's felt like it was going to be Ime Udoka, and probably the league stepped in and was like, hey, we can't have this guy with accusations against him like 6 weeks ago step in and coach the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay, so Paul, would you then put keeping the number 3 pick ahead of both Paul George and Kevin Durant?
I don't want them.
So keeping the 3rd pick.
I guess I'm confused by the power ranking thing. I'm just telling you what I would have done.
What you want to, like, your most desired to least desired.
They wouldn't be on my list. They're off. I don't want either of them, any part of them.
How do you feel about Brandon Ingram?
No. Out.
Really?
Yeah.
Mikal Bridges?
Out. I'm out on most people. Like the
Zion.
It would be interesting.
He's a tough one.
It would be interesting to see if Ime Udoka is finally the guy that gets to him, but it does feel like there's a lot of bad habits out there that he's just not going to ever be able to shake.
Does the baby mama drama bother you? Can you have 2 guys with baby mama drama on the same team?
I think
Bill O'Brien would say no.
It's professional sports. We hear about some baby mamas. I think there's a lot of baby mamas out there.
Yeah, I think Zion just found the craziest of them all, and it's not really his fault.
Well, I mean, it is, but
I mean, she seems like extra crazy.
Well, you have to know these things.
Yeah, it's kind of his fault.
You can stalk people on social media. It's not that hard to determine what you're dealing with. It's not. I mean, there's probably a Lincoln. She's a Lincoln bio girl, for God's sakes. I mean, what are you expecting? You're going to see all of her links on social media so you can get her hot sports takes? No.
That's probably what interested him. Like, let's be adults here.
He probably saw her and was like, screw it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, Zion's a tough one. I don't know. That's going to happen at some point, right? Though, are we all in collective agreement that he will demand a trade from New Orleans?
Probably, but I don't know. I truly don't know.
If you ask me if anyone's going to demand a trade from their team, I'm going to say, unless they're Steph Curry, I'm going to say, well, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I am surprised that none of you, and I guess this would involve a trade with the number 3 pick and Jalen Green, but there's no love for Braun, as a texter asks about. No love for drafting Bronny to sign Braun. I don't want it because I just don't want to root for LeBron.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't want Kevin Durant.
Right, exactly. I will say though, I feel like LeBron would give you more than Durant at this point.
Oh, definitely would. 100%.
I think that's definitely debatable, but I think right now, yeah.
I think he still plays better defense. He still can score at will.
There's more, and to quote LeBron, would he fit in or would he fit out? You know, I think Kevin Durant's more likely just to fit in. And I think LeBron, we talk about it with James Harden all the time. We talk about it with Luka. We talk about it with a lot of guys. When he's on your team, you have to play James Harden ball. You have to play Luka ball. When LeBron James is on your team, not only does your team have to play LeBron James ball, your entire organization has to play LeBron James ball.
That's why I wouldn't want LeBron.
I also just don't even view it as semi-realistic. Some of these aren't realistic at all, and they're more realistic.
Okay. Yeah, I have no interest in LeBron James. Because I don't want to see what happens next.
I have like 5% interest.
I would be more interested at games.
Yeah.
It would be more fun to go to Toyota Center if of all those guys, even including Durant. Like if LeBron goes, it becomes a totally different experience going to a Rockets game, even if we're talking about 38-year-old LeBron. Much like with 30, well, shoot, 40, whatever, Tom Brady going to the Bucs. They were the Bucs. Like, I was just there. No one cares about sports there. No one cares. But when Brady was there, they cared for a little bit.
Any interest in DeJounte Murray or Trey Young?
Definitely not Trey Young.
Yeah.
Definitely not. He was last on
Trey
the
Young
list.
was last. Yeah. At first, we put him in the. I just grouped them together as like either one of these guys, and then I was like, actually, I have a strong opinion about which one I would rather not have.
You know, the more I'm thinking about it, though, the more would I have something to get me animated every single night. And I mean, yeah, LeBron would give me that, but also Trey Young would give me that. I would get annoyed. I would hate watch Trey Young's just dishonorable
It would be more
tactics
polarizing.
and less defensive play than anybody ever.
I was saying like it's just worse James Harden. It's like what you're getting.
It would give me content.
You're James Harden, except you lose in the play-in, instead of to the Warriors.
Yeah.
One name we didn't bring up yesterday. Do you think that De'Aaron Fox is long for Sacramento?
He's not going to get traded in the next month. So
yeah, I don't think we're there.
He doesn't
yet.
need that long for Sacramento. He just needs to not be traded this offseason.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet.
I think if you're Sacramento, you're trying to keep this thing going as long as you can.
They made the playoffs, or last year, they made the playoffs for the first time in 13 years.
Right. I mean, it's the first time you've been relevant in a while.
They're in. We don't care if we're in the play-in tournament.
They want to play in game.
The play-in is way better than our last decade. One guy I thought of on the drive home, and I was like, oh, we should have thrown him in here. Now we can, because we basically did the same segment 2 days in a row. Karl Anthony Towns. Just where is he? Where does he land? Nope.
Yeah, only if Karl Anthony Towns comes with Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
I have him above Zion, but still pretty low on the list.
He doesn't
At least
look
he plays.
He's a different basketball player with Anthony Edwards out there.
Maybe he needed that Anthony Edwards season.
But I don't want
an internship.
I don't want him
with someone who's 5 years younger than him.
Who's also answering questions for him at the press conference. God, that's so emasculating.
Yeah.
Even if he's right to do so when he was defending him, I'd be like, oh wow, this person who's half a decade younger
who's
than me
22
is answering questions.
One of my
for
friends who's not like super locked in on the NBA was like, because it was when Anthony Edwards was asked about Jamal Murray, like does he like look at Jamal Murray as an OG? And he went, hell no. He's like, he's 26. I'm 22. One of my friends is like, oh my God, Anthony Edwards is only 22. It's like, yeah.
He's so good.
He does seem like already a finished product, but
yeah, those make me feel
close.
I do feel very unaccomplished as a 35-year-old seeing Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Like, oh, kill me.
I mean, he would look at me and be like, this sucker's 28.